Let's start with this. For viewers who may not be familiar, what exactly is the diversity visa or green card lottery program? What was its original purpose?
So, the US Diversity Visa Program was instituted by the Immigration Act of 1990, and it was primarily to diversify America's immigrant population. And it was meant to counteract the system's focus on family based and employment based visas by providing opportunities to people from countries who historically had low rates of immigration to the US, and that is assessed by the last 5 years of immigrants coming in.
When it comes to how someone qualifies for the diversity visa, what kinds of background checks are required before a green card is issued?
So the way the system works is that applicants are invited to fill in forms, and then there is a random computerized lottery. No system checks till that time. That's open to everyone. There is a publication that says countries that are excluded from participating, and that's obviously based on the number of immigrants they've sent in the past 5 years. So about 5,000 visas. And there is a DS form that is sent out after people are selected through the randomized computer drawing, then and people are invited to apply, then they have to apply for their immigrant visas. At that point, when they're applying, then there are background checks at that, and they are set out through different countries' systems, whether it is their biometric systems, their data security systems, their birth records or other records, criminal records. And so you have to rely on every country to have a good system in place so you can trust it to come in.
When it comes to legal process here with President Trump, does he have the authority to pause or suspend this program, or is this something that would typically have to move through Congress?
The president has authority under 212F of the US Immigration and Nationality Act, and that does grant president broad authority via proclamation to suspend or restrict the entry of any alien foreign national into the US if their entry is deemed to be detrimental to US interests. And this effectively allows national security based travel bans or limitations on specific groups of immigrants or non immigrants. This power also allows the executive branch to act decisively on national security and public safety. And this has also been seen in the proclamations recently that restrict entry from high risk countries.
Now, when we talk about this being paused, does that mean the applications are frozen, or is this something that could be potentially challenged in court?
Oh no, during a pause, they're not cancelled. New diversity visa entries are not accepted. The selected applicants may not be able to submit their DS forms, Department of State forms, immigrant forms. They will be unable to schedule themselves for interviews. So they may get approved but not be issued visas. Applications are not denied. It just means that they're in pending or an inactive status.
And typically, what standard do courts usually apply when reviewing immigration actions taken in the name of national security? Have we seen any of this before?
Yeah, so 5 USC 706, there is plaintiffs may argue the suspension if it's arbitrary or capricious, so there is no reasoned explanation. It is inconsistent with prior practice. It's indefinite or open ended without justification. It's contrary to the law. It's unlawful or it's an unlawful failure to act. Courts have been receptive where the pause effectively eliminates a program for the entire fiscal year. And plaintiffs at that point may argue things like the executive branch lacks authority to suspend a program. The suspension is amounting to improper rewriting of the INA. And the resource constraints or policy preferences do not override statutory commands. So, those are the things that plaintiffs may bring up.
Who is most affected by a pause of the diversity visa program? And I guess specifically, what regions or communities rely on it the most?
The communities are usually smaller, low migration countries worldwide. These are countries, like we said, who have low historical immigration to the US. We're talking about countries from Eastern Europe and Central Asia. I'll give you some examples: Moldova, Albania, Kosovo, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, or Africa. There are countries in Africa that do not have a high number of immigrants that they send to the US. So those are the ones that would be affected with this.
Now, this isn't the first time President Trump has sought to end this program. So, how is what we're seeing now different from what we have seen in the past with the president?
President Trump has repeatedly called for a statutory repeal of the diversity visa program, and this was done earlier as well. There was a COVID era DV freeze in 2020, and that's the closest parallel that we have. And at that point, the diversity visa selectees were processed slowly or not at all. The fiscal year deadline had passed, and tens of thousands lost eligibility. And the key legal issue there is whether executive inaction can nullify a congressionally mandated visa category or not. And when it was challenged, the courts did ask for resumption of processing.
So, before I let you go here, where does all of this stand? Where does all of this go from here? What do viewers need to know about this?
So at this point, it's going to be wait or watch. This was just announced recently. It's not made it into a proclamation just yet in terms of the suspension of the diversity visa or the reason that's provided, which is security or vetting. What's a little different here is that this is not one of the countries that you can think may not have a good vetting system. Say, for example, it's a European country from who the suspect is from. So it's from Portugal, and we understand or trust Europe to have a clearer background check. Also, another point would be that this individual had first come in on a student visa, and his entry into the country was also vetted by, or should have been vetted earlier by the local law enforcement or federal law enforcement here in the US.